And another hurdle cleared to make way for the Citi Field casino project known as Metropolitan Park. The City Council overwhelmingly approved changes to zoning regulations required to move the project forward.
This project deserves the opportunity to compete in the established process for one of the new gaming licenses, and I'm proud to vote yes on allowing them to do that, and I vote yes on the future of Queens.
So the $8 billion development will now be reviewed by the mayor before heading up to Albany, where state lawmakers will get the final say. One of those lawmakers joining us this morning, State Senator Jessica Ramos, representing the 13th District, where Metropolitan Park may be housed. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you guys.
And before we get to that whole discussion, I want to get your thoughts on what we just heard from Justin on the pro-Palestinian protest and the arrest here of Mahmoud Khalil, and your thoughts overall on the deportation talks and whether or not you really believe, because you are a mayoral candidate, that this was an attack on free speech.
It absolutely is. I think colleges and universities are places where students are supposed to exercise that free speech, discuss ideas, and sometimes we might agree with them, sometimes we might not. There are places where sometimes those protests cross the line, especially in making other students feel uncomfortable coming to school. But nevertheless, this right now is something that's coming from Donald Trump and his administration, and something that reeks of authoritarian regime, where people are essentially disappeared. In the case of Mahmoud Khalil, essentially disappeared without having actually done anything wrong. He is a green card holder and not someone who should be placed in deportation proceedings, much less disappeared for several days without his attorney, much less his pregnant wife, knowing where he is.
And speaking of being in the mayoral race, it's getting very crowded, and we've got big names in there. We have Andrew Cuomo that is now running, Adrienne Adams. How do you feel in this crowded field of mayoral candidates now?
Well, I feel very hopeful that New Yorkers are going to want to usher in a new era of leadership and not recycle the same scandal-ridden men that we have been watching now for many years. I think Andrew Cuomo is someone who is claiming to be able to clean up a lot of the mess that he himself made. Largely, the insecurity we feel when we're on the subway or on the streets are largely because Andrew Cuomo, as governor, closed down so many of our mental health facilities, and there is no place to send people who are struggling with severe mental illness. Never mind all of the sexual harassment and all of the grandparents that were sent to nursing homes that he lied about during the pandemic, took away Medicare funding from our hospitals during the pandemic. And I'm really hoping that New Yorkers remember that record and remember who's been working for them, fighting against the real affordability crisis that we've now been facing for the past several years.
You still see a path to winning?
I absolutely do.
Okay, I want to talk about what we invited you on here, and that is, of course, this casino here at Metropolitan Park. It appears to be gaining support from community leaders, right? All 5 community boards support the plan, including who you just heard from, Councilman Francisco Moya. I want to just run through some of the things here, because it's going to create 20,000 union jobs, subway station upgrades, 25 acres of public park space, improve roads, bike paths, so on and so forth. But you are an opponent of the plan, so it seems like there's not a whole lot to dislike. So help people understand why you're an opponent.
It's also going to create a ton of traffic, and it's going to be built in the community that was the epicenter of the pandemic, where our average household income is still right under the minimum wage. And so right now, to me, real economic development for my community means building the hospitals, the affordable housing, the schools that we need in order to service New Yorkers. There is no there's no part of that in the community benefit agreement that the casino proponents are putting forward. An entertainment park is really just about them being able to make more money and not any real service to the community.
But the council voted overwhelmingly in favor, 41-2. So what is it that you think is the bad part of this whole plan?
Well, look, I polled my community to find out how they felt. 3/4 of my community does not support the development. I think when it comes to legislative bodies, there's something called member deference, where people respect what the home elected official feels. And clearly, this is something that I disagree with on the local council member.
And because you are the state senator in that district, could you hold up this moving forward?
Well, they need legislation in order to, quote unquote, alienate the parkland, meaning that the parkland could be used for the purposes of a casino, which is not currently allowed under law. The ULURP process was accelerated and moved up despite whatever was happening with these bills in Albany, because I believe there's 2 different bids that require that same type of legislation. Yeah. And I have refused to introduce such legislation.
We're getting a little technical with the ULURP process, but for a viewer to understand, right, because a state senator can hold up a project moving forward, right?
Well, this project, you can't make that blanket statement about all land use projects.
But this one.
It's specific to this one because we're talking about parkland, according to the lease, right? Even though we're talking about an asphalt parking lot. But technically that is parkland, and according to state law, it cannot be used for the purposes of a casino without the proper permission. And for that, they need state legislation.
Do you feel like you could reach any kind of common ground?
Well, we've been having conversations for many, many years, and I have been very clear on the types of things that our community needs in order to move forward. I think it's unfortunate that now, after all of this time, people in my community still don't feel like they actually support the casino because of the lack of real community input and the components that would really make it perhaps palatable to some of my neighbors. Other neighbors are completely against gambling and the possible addictions that might bring about, particularly in such a working class community. It's not like the casino's only going to be open during Mets games, right? It's going to be open year round, even on non-game days. And our community just doesn't have the disposable income to gamble.
Just briefly, because we're almost out of time, do you support it? They still need the gaming license, by the way, but do you support it going to another one of the proposed areas?
Well, I think, the law is that there will be 3 casino licenses given to downstate. Presumably 2 of them are going to go to the existing casinos, also in Queens and up in Westchester. I think there's an argument to be made as to why Queens needs 2 casinos as opposed to any other borough.
Well, Senator Ramos, thank you again for coming
Thanks
in
for
this
having
morning.
me.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, the timer now is 7:42, and tune in tonight for Picks on Politics. Okay, we're going one-on-one with Adrienne Adams. She is new into the mayor's race, and we're going to talk to her about why she decided to jump in this late in the game. We're also going one-on-one with Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. There was a lot of drama that played out in Albany with him dropping off the ticket, whether or not he was pushed off the ticket when Governor Hochul runs for re-election. We're going to talk to him about what that means for him and his next steps, all tonight. Picks on Politics at 6:30.